Hello everyone and welcome into my craft space. Today we're going to be chatting about mass making some Reader's Digest junk journals. So these are vintage Reader's Digest books. You'll know them when you see them by their beautiful patterns on the front covers. They all come in a variety of patterns and colors. And this one is one that I have in progress right now. I am working on it. And it's going to have 3 signatures, and it's going to be just an awesome, cute little journal. These covers are hard covers, and they make really great, perfect size journals. So if you print out digital kits on a regular letter size paper, copy paper, and fold it in half, it makes a really nice page inside your journal. Credit to this digital paper goes to RachandBella Crafts. This is their Sweet Like Honey digital kit, and this is the kit that I'm using in this book. Okay, so let's chat about a few things first. Why might you want to mass make? Well, maybe you have a bunch of gifts to make. Maybe you're headed to a thrift sale or a craft sale. Maybe you just want to sell a bunch, or maybe you're just a creative that can't really focus on one theme and you want to just have a bunch going, or you want to save yourself some time and know that you want to make this many journals. So here I think I have 15, and the first things you want to do, I like to take a damp cloth or a baby wipe and wipe down the front cover, the back cover, and the spine. You don't want to drench it because you don't want to weaken the spine of the book, but you do just kind of want to wipe it off. I mean, these books are from, what does it say, 1974, so I'm sure there's a lot of dust on there or whatever. They've been sitting on bookshelves or wherever they've been. These ones I bought as a lot at a garage sale. They were all in a box, and the person was like, please take them all. So I did, and I am excited to make a bunch of journals out of them. Now I know I've watched other mass make videos, and people are always concerned about what's going to be happening with the journals at the end, and I'm not selling them in this video. I'm not selling them in the next video. I don't know if I'll be selling them at the end or not, so stay tuned. I may sell them on Facebook on a live. I don't know. So just stay tuned. They're not already sold. They're not pre-sold. I'm not taking orders or anything like that. I'm just simply showing you how to mass make in these videos, or at least how I do it. And, you know, you can put your own spin on it or just watch the process. So the first things we need to do is separate the book block from the book. So this can be a little scary for some people because you're pretty well gutting the book. You want the whole book block to come out. This one looks a little weird because I've torn pages out of it and used the book page for other things. Some of the Reader's Digest books, if you're not familiar with them, will have some photos in them. Let's see. Yeah, so this one, you know, these might be nice to use in a journal somewhere. Some of them are like political stories. Some of them are just personal stories. Some of them will have photos of people. Some of them animals, just a variety of things I found. Some of them, like this one, I don't know if I would really use this one, but you can always cover over it, or use it to glue or make an envelope and fold it in. So many things you can do with book page. So don't throw these away. Another thing I might mention, some people, when they take these apart, they like to keep this title page in here, this ex libris, or however you say it. It's easiest, honestly, if you don't. If you want to have this, you can glue it back in. You can leave it attached, and on one of them, I've done that somewhere in here. Let's see if I can find it and show you guys. It does make things a little more challenging when you're trying to cut it out. Oops, where did it go? And I don't generally do that on mine. I think it was one of these blue ones. Yeah, this one right here. So you can see our goal is to get it cut down like this. And I did leave these pages attached, but it wasn't easy, as they want to tear and rip like this one did. So leaving it there, I'm gonna have to patch that now or decide to take it all the way off. But it can be done. This one was done really well, and it is attached if you want that extra vintage feel. of the Reader's Digest book. In fact, I might just leave this one here because it is nicely attached, and take this one out. Maybe use this one to make some tags or another page so that it's still within the book. Okay, so you wipe down your book, and then I like to go through and find fabrics that I want for the books, but that's after I gut them, so we'll talk about that in a second. We'll set these ones all aside. So the easiest way I have found, if you look at these spines, you kind of want to like work them just a little bit, like stretch it like this. And then you see how it separates up there? That's good. That is what we want. So we'll do the same thing on the back here, just kind of stretch it. And then once it does that little stretchy part, I like to get it to open up there and put my bone folder in there. Highly technical here, you guys. So the bone folder helps to keep the block from the spine. And then I use a little cutter. You can use an X-Acto knife, you can use a box cutter, whatever you use. Just make sure it's not massive and you really are cautious with what you're cutting. Our goal now is not to cut the spine. We want to keep that intact, but we simply want to cut this block out. So let's scoot this over here. Make sure we're in frame. While I'm doing this, I like to make sure I have it as separated as I can. It's not a good idea to keep your finger back here. That's why I use my bone folder, just in case that blade moves. Don't want to cut yourself. So then once you've figured this out, just go ahead and slice and kind of angle your blade towards the block, because like I said, we want to preserve the spine. And I've seen people do this a lot of different ways. I don't really know if there's a right or a wrong way. If you get the block separated from the spine, that's the goal, and that's what you wanted to do. So do whatever way works easiest for you. Okay, so we got one side done. Can take this out now. And then just simply turn it like this. Now I like to move the spine because that's the part we're trying to preserve. And then just go ahead and slice right down here. Again, keeping the blade as far away as I can from the spine and the pieces I'm trying to preserve. And my fingers, of course. Now you can just keep rotating it if it's being difficult. Not coming out very easily. There we go. All right. So there's our book with our spine. The next thing you might want to do is kind of trim up these edges here so they're not so jagged looking. Again, being cautious not to cut into the actual spine, because that's the part we're trying to preserve. If you do happen to cut into the spine, it's not the end of the world. You can easily patch it and then just cover it up in the long run. So no worries there. But the goal is to get them to look like this. So we'll do one more together, and then I've already done the rest of them. I think I have a total of 15 here altogether. So again, we're just going to open it up and bend it out a little bit. You can hear it kind of crinkling. That's what you want to hear. find my perfect handy dandy bone folder in there. And that just kind of helps keep it separated from the block and keep my fingers out of the way. Now when you get to like the halfway point like this one is, you could just flip it around. Bone folder's still there. There we go. That broke apart, and then we'll do this one. Now these books are vintage. You know, I don't really feel bad for gutting them because they were discarded books. They were going to be thrown away. These literally were sitting in a box at somebody's yard that they were just going to leave out for recycle if somebody didn't buy them. So they are vintage, and like this one is 1974 or 78. I don't know. It's 1970 something. And so I feel like in doing this, I am definitely giving them new life. So, and keeping them from the trash. You know, I know some people have a hard time cutting books, and that's understandable. I definitely like to preserve some things, but these ones were headed for the landfill, and it's nice to keep them out of there and make them have a new life again. So don't hate on me for cutting out books. All right, here we go. We're just going to even it up again. Kind of clean it up. Now you can make your own jacket. You don't always have to start from a vintage book. You can get chipboard and cardstock and some fabric and you know, make your own section like this without cutting up a book. So there are ways if you are somebody who can't just get yourself to cut up a book, no matter what its destiny was. All right, so now we're left with something like this. And what I like to usually do at this point is I go through and pick out fabrics that I think will match and think about what theme I want to make them. I usually work on a theme book. You know, some might be fall, some might be holidays, or you know, botanicals or garden or whatever. If you don't know, then you can just kind of keep it basic. This one, that one that I showed you at the beginning, is going to be a bee journal. So I go through them and I figure out some fabrics. And like I said, they all have this beautiful print on the front. You'll have to decide also if you want to make your signatures hidden or shown in the spine like this one. This is just a 3 pamphlet stitch with 3 signatures here, and I didn't care so much about poking holes through the spine because I'm going to put fabric on the other side and decorate them somehow. I'm probably still going to leave some of this beautiful pattern showing just because I think it's really unique to these books, and something I wanted to kind of not really focus on, but feature a little bit in the book as well. And then on the inside of the book, I usually do cover it with pattern paper. This is the fabric shining through here, and then I'll put some kind of trim or lace going down here. So we'll get into that later. But for now, there's a couple different things you can do to strengthen the spine of your book. This is the opportunity to work on the spine of your book and really make sure it's going to be strong enough to hold all of the signatures that you're going to sew into it, because it's going to hold all of the weight of all of your papers that you put in there. And you can see I put quite a few in this one, and then I still have to embellish and put all of my ephemera in there, and trims and any other fabric or papers and so forth. So the weight really is all on here. And there's a couple different ways you can reinforce it. Some ways are with fabric, some ways are with chipboard, and then also some tape, like a duct tape. So what we're going to do today is we're going to put in a piece of chipboard, and then we're going to cover it with tape, and then we're going to cover it with fabric, and we're going to do that for all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this down. I don't know what size this measures. Let's see. If you are a measuring person, looks like it's about 1 3/4 of an inch in there, maybe a little less because you don't want to cover that paper. So maybe 1.5 inches is what I'm gonna do. And then I think it was like 7.5. I should get my other ruler out. That's 7 and yeah, 7.5. So 1.5 by 7.5. You might want to measure yours just to be sure we got the right measurements. And so I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting chipboard, and we're gonna glue the chipboard in here. Then we're gonna cover it with some duct tape to make it the same level, and then we're gonna cover it with fabric. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on fast forward, and you guys can just watch the process. And like I said, this is mass making like 15 different journals. So you'll see me working with those. I will set aside the fabric scraps, and some of the fabrics are a little different sizes. Some of them are wider, some of them they're all different patterns, and they were just scraps that I received at a garage sale. It looked like a quilter maybe was getting rid of some of her scraps. So I just kind of went through what I had, and some of them, like I said, are wider, and then some of them I've left a little extra edge over here so that it can be tucked when I glue it in. Now you can sew it in if you are a sewing person, but I've seen it done different ways where people sew through the spine, because the spine is actually pretty thin, and they'll just sew right along this little valley right here. And if that is what you'd like to do, go for it. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use some tacky glue. You can use Fabri-Tac, you can use whatever you have. I'll be using this original tacky glue on the inside with the chipboard, and then it's white. And then I'll probably switch to my clear gel tacky glue when I start gluing the fabric down. And then the tape that I'm using is just by 3M, and it's duct tape. The packaging said multi-purpose tape, but it is just 3M duct tape. So you'll see that as well. I'll put that on after the chipboard, and that just kind of smooths it out and again provides that extra support. Some people use a Tyvek material. It's kind of like those mailers that are from the Postal Service or UPS, and that you can definitely use that as a way to recycle those envelopes that you receive. You don't want to run out to the post office and stock up because they don't like you using their packaging that's not been mailed yet. So just make sure if you're using that, you're either buying Tyvek or you are recycling stuff that you've received as a package. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, so I have finished this process. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. One thing you weren't seeing off camera is that I was taking them like this and kind of clipping those spines together just to ensure that the chipboard stays here. And one other thing to note about cutting chipboard, if you're cutting it with your trimmer, it will dull your blade. So make sure you have a blade set aside just to do chipboard, or know that you will need to buy a replacement blade. Now on this one, I did double it up. This book was from 1954, and as you could see, I was running my hand across the spine before I was putting in the chipboard just to see that the spine felt secure and thick enough. This one felt really thin, so I did double it up, and I'm going to be really cautious with that one because it feels pretty fragile. So my goal will be to make it a little more sturdy before we put any pages in there. And then also on some of them you would see me do like this. Anytime you are manipulating with a spine, you still want to make sure that it can close like a book, just like this, so that it won't have any trouble once you start putting signatures in there. I also gutted the books all before the video except for the two that we did together, so you'll have to do that in order to do this mass make piece. So that, and then putting in all of these spines took me about 20 minutes. And the chipboard that I used is just a thinner chipboard. I'm sorry, I don't know the weight of it, but it's about the same equivalent as like a cereal box or a cracker box. So if you have those things, you can use those too. Most of mine are saved from when you get the backing off of a notepad, or the little piece that comes with copy paper sometimes. I just save all of those things. All right, so this is what all of mine look like. Like I said, I was clipping them just to ensure there's like 3 or 4 in a little bundle, just to make sure that chipboard was staying down, pressing it really firmly, making sure it's in the spine where it needs to go. And then now we'll move on to the next step, which is using my duct tape, and I'm going to run 2 streams, one here and then one here overlapping, and then I don't want it to go over the edges, so I'll trim it, and then after that we'll be putting on fabric. All right, you can see some of that tape is a little fiddly. It worked a lot better cutting it with the box cutter. Even if it's straight, it's not going to matter terribly much because this is just a layer to support the spine. I also forgot to mention that I try to keep the tape thinner than the fabric because the next step is to cover it with the fabric. So if it doesn't happen that way, that's okay. You can also cover it with your paper that you might put in here. You could do some beautiful trims. There's lots of ways you can cover it and fix that. I also usually cut two pieces of fabric about the same size. One goes on the inside, one goes on the outside. You do, however, need to decide if you want to put fabric down first, and then your strings will be over the fabric, or if you just want to save it and cover it for later, or you don't have to put fabric on the outside at all. So totally up to you how you design and engineer your book. And so this last step that we're going to do now is just to add the fabric. I also wanted to mention too that just because you're making a mass quantity doesn't mean you will lack in quality. As long as you do every single step for every single book, you will be just fine on your quality. And you know, like I said, if you have several people you want to make them for, or if you just have several themes you want to do, this is definitely a good way to do that. I know some people will do this part, getting all of these covers prepared, and then they'll just keep them on a shelf, and when they feel like making a book, they look through the covers that they have ready to go, and then all they need to do is simply put their signatures in. So this is just one part of the process, and it's a nice and easy way to do it. Also for storage, because it is a lot easier to store these stacked up flat than it is to store the books whole. So, and then, you know, when you're ready to make a journal, you wouldn't have to gut the book and go through this whole process. It would just be ready to put signatures in and get going. So that's another thought there too. All right, so the last step is putting in the fabric. I like to use my clear gel tacky glue. You can use Fabri-Tac, you can use, I've seen some people use glue stick. I don't know how well that would hold. I also wouldn't probably use a dry adhesive like a double-sided sticky tape, because again, I don't know how well that would hold. Again, if you wanted to sew or stitch this on, just stitching around, that's another option as well, but you definitely don't have to. You don't even have to use fabric if you don't want to. You could just use paper, and you could use some ribbon here, you could use paper. Anything that you have or want to do, you could easily do. And like I said, this tape part that I put on here isn't necessarily a must, but I really like it because it smooths out everything that you've got underneath here, makes a really nice surface to put your signatures in, and also provides a lot of extra support for that spine. Like, look how much more sturdy that feels and looks than what it was before. And especially if you have a really fragile book, I feel like this is going to keep the spine nice and sturdy no matter what I put in there. So that is reassuring, and definitely what the whole point of this process was. So we tear the book apart and then we build it back up. So a little weird of a process, but it definitely works for me and has made some beautiful books. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting in this fabric, and I'll check back with you at the end. Okay, so we've completed those steps. The next steps, we will be working on making a template in order to punch the holes and get our signatures, for our signatures to go in. This step is just a lot of gluing. One of the challenges will be making sure you don't stack them so that they're going to stick together. You don't want that. It will stick to your next book and ruin them. You could put a piece of parchment paper or wax paper in between to help prevent the sticking and to still allow for drying. I forgot to mention, if you like to iron, feel free to iron your fabric. I don't really feel it's necessary because when you glue it down, as long as you smooth it out, it just kind of straightens all the wrinkles right on out. Yeah, I did not put on my second piece of fabric on the outside. I like to, I guess, put the signatures in next and then use the fabric to kind of cover those signatures. So that's probably what I will be doing. And then in the next video, we will make our template, get our holes all punched, and get some eyelets in so that we can prepare signatures and have them ready to go. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, mass making these journals. This is just the start of the process, like I said, and there's many reasons why you might want to mass make. I know it is nice to just have these ready to go, and then you can just grab one when you're ready to do it, and you don't have to do, you know, this step every time you want to make a journal. So thanks so much for joining me while I crafted these, this mass make. Hopefully you got some value out of it. Let me know what you are mass making for, or if you've ever mass maked, in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you'll know when I make the next video. And thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoy all of my subscribers here and hearing from you. So be sure to make some comments down below. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.